Good morning. We have Heidi Clements on today, who is a very popular Instagram influencer, and her mantra is growing old gracefully. This was a great episode, I thought.
I thought so too.
Yeah. I loved the way you guys really broke down the problems in society about women and aging.
I mean, this is a not an unusual approach that she has, but it's outspoken, and she's very engaging. You're really going to enjoy this one.
Enjoy the show.
But what do I know? I'm just a vagina doctor. Heidi Clements, welcome to the Vagina Doctor podcast.
Thank you. What a title.
We'll talk about that too. We're here today. We have Karen Spaulding with us. She's my right hand, and she will interrupt as she feels free to, just to keep us on the straight and narrow. But
I think you mean interject.
Yes.
Certainly not interrupt.
No.
Oh, you're
well,
quite right.
I do interrupt sometimes.
No. You'll see.
I
You'll see
can't
I'm
help
right.
myself.
So you're, I think by your own description, a pro-aging storyteller and clothing enthusiast. I'm an anti-aging doctor, so this could be frosty.
I think those words need to be stricken from the record for life. And I think cosmetic companies should get sued if they use the words anti-aging, quite frankly.
I actually never refer to myself as that. I just thought it was funny because you were pro-aging.
You just wanted to tickle the tiger right off the bat.
Yeah, and I did.
Not a good idea.
Clearly. I regret it already. Actually, we are on the same side with this completely. And we've got a mountain to climb.
I agree.
It's your background, though, is screenwriting. You were very successful and did that for a long time. But you're much more than that, as we know. And you're now a very popular Instagrammer and influencer. Tell us the story. You're a storyteller. Tell us that story.
It's so funny. It's when people ask me what I do now and I say, I guess I'm an influencer, it still feels really funny to say because it certainly wasn't what I started out wanting to do. I was an unscripted writer for many years, working on entertainment news shows and tabloid news shows like Entertainment Tonight, Access Hollywood. And I was very lucky at 51, I got the opportunity to become a scripted writer and work on a show called Baby Daddy. And that was 100 episodes, which again is a remarkable thing to do in this business. And when it ended, I decided I only wanted to write about women over 50. And I now have 5 scripts sitting on my desk that nobody wants to make. And so I just got bored not working, and my friend Krista Allen, who is an actress, said, I think that you should start posting your outfits on TikTok. I started posting my outfits on Instagram during the pandemic because I noticed that people weren't getting out of their sweatpants.
It's true.
And I thought, if you stay in your sweatpants, your attitude is going to be sweatpants. Mm-hmm. You're going to feel sloppy and crappy all day. And so I started posting these outfits, Just Get Dressed. She talked me into putting them on TikTok. I started putting them on TikTok, and then she gently prodded me and said, you have a lot of really good advice that I like. I think maybe you should add a story with your outfits. And so if you go back and look at my TikTok from the very one till where I am now, you can see the progression of how I got to where I am. And then I started posting the same things on Reels on Instagram, where I had 4,000 followers for 10 years. And it went from 4,000 to almost 700,000 now, less than a year later. And so I realized that all the stories that I wanted to tell in scripts, I could tell on Instagram and reach people that would be interested in those stories. I always thought it would be women in their 50s, but 90% of my audience is under 40.
Wow. So we know why we got into this circumstance where we keep on talking about the equality or the strive for equality of the sexes, and we are failing at it. And it doesn't seem like we're getting very far or any further in this picture. And I think of you know, you have talked about the idea of what women are supposed to be. They're supposed to get married, have kids, look beautiful all the time, and we can certainly blame the patriarchal situation for that. And I must admit, I have a little bit of difficulty talking about that because I've definitely have benefited from being white and male and Anglo-Saxon maybe too. But there, as I know, an inherent undercurrent that's unconscious to me of thoughts that I have or the way I say things sometimes. So I'm very concerned that, my practice, I'm a gynecologist, and my practice is now menopausal medicine largely, whatever else we want to call it. It's menopause is a time now for the present woman that it will be half of their adult life. We're not far away from when it's going to be half of their total life. And it's it's a really crucial part, and it's not being paid attention to. And the women themselves are not paying attention to it. We can see why we have a problem, but is the way to do it exactly what you're doing? Just getting the word around and pointing these things out to people.
I mean, look, I benefit from being white. We all benefit from different things throughout our lives. And yes, the patriarchy is a huge problem, but they'll all be dead soon, the ones that are a problem. And I think what we really need to focus on is the female on female crime that happens out there. And I think what I'm trying to do is convince younger women that they should not be afraid of aging. I think the media originally, when they started advertising beauty products, they specifically pitted women, older women, against younger women. It's, you're hideous if you're old. You're the old witch. It's bad to age. And I think this is something that we need to unbake in women first, because if we convince all the women to be on one side, we can easily take out the patriarchy, which is where the problem is. As far as, being a white male and talking to women, I think the thing that does not happen often enough is I don't think men listen to women. I think as we get older, part of the problem of becoming invisible is we are listened to less and less, and we start screaming louder and louder. I always say, if you watch the show The Golden Bachelor, the women were rabid for this man who was just listening to them, literally just listening to them. Like, it's that simple. And you can't unbake what you don't know as a white male for what it feels like to be a woman. It's as simple as when I moved into my new house in Montecito, my new guest house, my friend said, "Oh, we don't have a key, but it's okay. We never lock our property." And I said, "That's because you're a man. You have no idea what it feels like to be a woman in the world. We're terrified all the time when it's dark to walk around at night.
Yeah.
Like, you have no idea what that feels like."
Right.
And it's those kinds of things that men need to understand,
And that's a big thing in terms of connecting to you. The things that you're saying, you're really speaking the obvious in a way, right? That those realities.
Yeah, the obvious to women, I think,
right,
but not to men.
But even your trajectory of the way your life has gone, choosing to have a life pretty much solo, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I chose it either, but it is what I have, and so.
And not having kids.
Am I going to spend my life being miserable that I didn't have kids, or that I'm not married? Or I'm grateful that I wasn't somebody who cared about whether or not I had a boyfriend or cared about whether or not I got married, because I see women now who feel so less than because they're not married. And I think, do you feel less than because you feel that way, or because society continues to tell you that you're a loser because you're not married?
And that relatability to you for women, young women, like you said, people, you're finding that your followers and the people maybe contacting you on Instagram or TikTok are people that are relating to your path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just saying thank you for making me feel safe about getting older and realizing that I'm not dead after 30. Like there are these women out there think that if you haven't gotten your shit together by 30, it's over. And I constantly post stuff about what a hot mess I was until well into my 40s.
Right. It doesn't all come together.
No.
Yeah. And then the women out there I always say, if you look at anyone, I mean, now coming from this age, if you look at anyone that really had it all together in their 20s, they imploded.
Oh, yeah.
At 30.
Because you don't even know who you are when you're 20.
No. And so they've been holding it, right, all together and checking all their boxes. And then at around 30, 32, 33, boom. They've imploded.
And I feel like they're following a list of things to do that someone else made up, and that someone else is usually an old white guy.
Yep.
Present company accepted.
Accepted? Okay. But I have a question about that because two things. One of them, if I see a patient who just states to me, I've decided I don't want to have children, and I want to take whatever precautions I can to make sure everything continues to work. I'm in good health, and what should I do, et cetera, et cetera. And I will always say to that patient, I'm so proud of what you're doing, because what you're doing is so contrary to what most people want to do. But frankly, it's a whole lot easier not to have kids than to have kids. And I have 5 of them, and I love them, but my life would be easier, not necessarily better, but it would be easier without them. And so it's, and some people just don't want to do that, but they do feel like they have to continue in the rat race that, I don't want to call women rats, but
well, I mean, too, there's this whole like mom club, of women, and when you're not in that club, especially in those years where everyone's having kids, and it took me forever to have a child, and then I only had one, but I just never quite got into that club because it took so long. And then by the time I had my daughter, I was kind of over it, being in any type of mom club. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of shame attached to not having children when you're younger and not having a husband when you're younger. There's so much shame, again, that is just baked into our society that we need to unbake, because you should be able to live your life the way you choose. I didn't go about deciding I didn't want to get married. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was young, I used to say, I'm going to wait till I'm really old to get married. I'm going to wait till I'm 28 years old, which in the 60s was 100. And then I, unfortunately, I was an alcoholic, and I spent a lot of years buried in booze, and it was too busy doing that to get married, and it just wasn't a priority. And then when I got sober and thought about having kids, I was 40, and my gynecologist said, it's not going to be easy. And she told me the things that I would have to do. And I thought, I don't think I want to do that. And so I just didn't. And I'm sure there was some initial guilt about it. And most people probably didn't shame me, because a lot of people are afraid to tell me the truth because I can snap back pretty fast. But I've never regretted that decision. There's enough children out there in the world, and I've been so grateful to actually just live my life for me, to have all of my failures and all of my successes just be what they are, just my life, stories in my life.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're doing now is, I think it's commendable on so many levels. First of all, it's being vulnerable about all these things with such a large community. I mean, TikTok and Instagram, that's like, having, like you said, you have scripts just sitting there or ideas for that no one will touch, right?
Yeah. Not yet,
but who knows? But now you have this audience that is obviously loving everything you're putting out there.
Yeah, I talk to producers all the time that say, young women don't want to hear stories about older women. And I'm like, I'll show you the proof. I have the insights available on my phone that show you exactly what age groups are listening to me. I get the most DMs from teenagers.
Really?
Yeah. That feel at 14 and 16, that feel just an absolute mess. It makes me so sad. But everything that we think we're getting better at, we're not.
No, I mean, it's actually getting worse. And
I agree.
Just to your point
and
of
social media is part of the problem.
Yeah, the 14 and 16-year-olds, there's so much pressure on them because they're looking at social media, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the reasons I'm so confident about my life is that I didn't grow up with social media. I was able to develop myself as a human being without knowing that anybody was judging me from the sidelines. If they were, they'd have to actually physically tell me.
Did you watch that documentary yet, Brandy Hellville?
I did a post about it, and I got a lot of, I said that the documentary was that the store was one size fits all clothing, and that size was people who didn't eat, and a lot of people, got mad at me for saying that, but that was literally what their concept was. They fired people that got fat, or heavy.
I was telling him about it last night because I watched half of it yesterday, and my daughter worked at Brandy Melville.
It is. I mean, I really didn't. Had I known that store existed at that time and that the clothing was one size, I think I would have gone after them on social media. I just find that horrifying. And they're also wildly anti-Semitic and racist. I mean, the only Black people in the store work in the basement in packaging. It is a disgusting store. I can't believe they still exist. I really can't. And what was eye-opening for me was the fast fashion.
Yes, the fast fashion and the way the girls thought that they were supposed to treat the people coming in to shop.
Yeah,
like they were better.
It's wild.
Right?
It's wild.
It's horrible.
All created by a white guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, we keep going back to that. It's really
I know. Well, okay. Yeah, okay. Which the other
It's a great documentary.
Yeah.
One question I have is, so I'm an old white guy and I have unconscious persuasions of just, I grew up in the Caribbean. The natives there were a lower class from where we were as again, the white privileged. So there's a lot of things that happen that I realize and I see. But if I get to the point of trying to talk to women about this subject, that they are unfairly treated, and come on, you are better than people are saying, and you don't need to do all these other things. I don't want to be condescending, and I don't know how to avoid that actually. Except say that I don't want to be condescending.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that if you say that you are an ally, then
it's good enough.
We get it. Yeah, it's good enough.
Okay.
That you don't think we are the lesser, weaker sex. I mean, you chose to be a gynecologist, so obviously you care about women and women's health. That should be, the first signal.
Well, yeah, that's definitely accurate in my case.
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot of gynecologists who don't feel that way.
Yeah.
And actually, a lot of those are women. Female gynecologists are no more understanding of women issues than male gynecologists.
Yeah.
Other than any sexual.
And that's a lot that we get younger girls coming from their gynecology offices that their insurance covers. They come to our office and they're seeing a woman and they come and see him.
My first gynecological experience was a disaster, and it has given me PTSD for sure. He was a man, and I was very young, and he was very intrusive about my sexual life, which I hadn't even had sex. And I just found the line, I found the line of questioning horrifying and intrusive. And I personally find going to the gynecologist horrifying and intrusive. I hate it. I don't even remember the last time I went.
I hate it too.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I just find it so naked, and it's as someone who has had sex used against them as a weapon, it feels almost like that when you go to the gynecologist. I wish there was a better way to do things.
Yeah, I know.
I wish you had like a secret gun that just shot through my skin and you could see everything inside. But it's interesting. I mean, I'm sure a lot of women feel that way, especially women who were assaulted.
Absolutely. Yeah. We actually, and one of the things that it's almost what you're describing as a secret gun. It's close. It's not.
Still has to go inside.
It still has to go inside. But we can essentially avoid a bimanual examination by using an ultrasound probe.
Yeah, those are great. I've had one of those. So, I think everybody should use that. It's really like, but even just that, even the act of putting your feet in the stirrups and like the whole way that it's set up is
scoot down a little further.
It's literally anti-female. It's just, you know, I've never really thought about it before, but it's probably why I don't go to the gynecologist.
Yeah, and then the mammogram too is bad.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you have to smash your boob between two plates of glass still. Have we not fixed that?
Yes.
That one doesn't bother me as much.
There is a test that can be done that would be very useful in that regard, a blood test.
Yeah.
But it's expensive.
Yeah.
It's not covered by insurance. That's the usual thing.
But the breast exam doesn't bother me so much. Because, you know. You can be assaulted that way, I guess, but not, you know, whatever.
Yeah, it's, but another fact here is that I'm somewhat of a dinosaur because there aren't many male gynecologists.
Yeah.
When I did my residency 45 years ago, it was most of the residents were male, and now it's rare that there's a male in a residency program.
Yeah.
For OBGYN. And frankly, in my opinion, this is another subject, but just because I always like to be able to make the statement when I can, obstetrics and gynecology should be two totally different, separate, special, a totally different situation.
Baby doctors and vagina doctors are two very different things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, the Nike revealed, and reveal being the appropriate word, their Olympic kit for the U.S. Olympics team. And
is that outfit kit?
Yes. Yeah. Kit. Sorry, that's an English expression.
I knew that. I knew it.
Okay, good. Needlessly revealing and sexist, say the athletes.
Needlessly
revealing and sexist, say athletes.
Sexless. I don't even know what that means. Needlessly revealing and sexist. Say
they're too skimpy.
The athletes are saying after the reveal.
Oh,
the athletes were weighing in on what Nike released for them to wear.
Too sexy. Yeah. You know what's so funny? I went to the gym yesterday, and for the first time in my life, I thought, how come women wear super tight spandex to work out in and men wear super baggy clothes? Clearly, the skimpy outfit doesn't make you more aerodynamic or your workout better, or men would wear them because.
True.
So again, we can't even work out.
We have to wear something sexy while we work out.
It's fucking mental.
Yeah.
It really is mental. The whole conversation of sexuality is exhausting to me because that is the problem with aging is that, I'm sorry I've been cursing, but I don't know any other way to say this. But when you reach 50, you are deemed unfuckable. And that is why women become so invisible. I cannot believe that is my only purpose in this life is to be on the end of a man's penis. Like, am I not more than that? Is my life not worth more than whether or not I am fuckable? It is so annoying. Is that how men are judged?
No.
So
they just, as long as they have a penis and
they're good to go.
Good to go.
Yeah.
Well, penis plus some Viagra.
Yeah, exactly. But nobody talks about that.
No,
they don't.
And they say, men get better looking as they get older.
Yeah, that's the message they've been giving us.
Yeah.
So it's really, the whole thing about sex and sexy and whether you feel sexy or not is just bananas to me. It really is. I mean, and it's so baked into who I am too. I mean, I think of those things too, like, oh, I don't want to wear that. It's too revealing or too sexy, or like, who cares? Honestly, who cares? Stop caring.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. Stop talking about my body. Stop analyzing everything.
Well,
That's how I feel about Nike's clothing. And
Well,
it,
you know, I
well,
mean,
it was like this high cut, like women's brief, right?
of course.
And then one of the shirts was like off the shoulder. It didn't even make any sense. Like it was an off the shoulder, like long
a tube top.
Yeah, like a.
How are you supposed to throw a javelin in a tube top without exposing your boobs?
As one triple jumper said, my hoo-ha will be out.
Yeah.
And we would have said, we'll use the euphemism of vulva.
And do you think that any single person on the Nike team was female that approved any of those things? Probably not.
No, I don't
really
think so.
crazy.
They were weighing in, and it was, where was the article?
It was BBC.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's all, I don't get any of it. It's just exhausting.
Yeah.
We are not your sexual chew toys. Move on.
What? Go ahead.
Go on.
But there's nothing wrong with sex after 50.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I haven't had it, so I don't know, but I'm sure there's nothing wrong with it. If that's something that you're interested in, great.
It is. It's harder to accomplish. There are more problems and obstacles for men and for women.
That's what I hear. I don't know. I don't know if my vagina still works in that way. I'll let you know if I ever decide to get back in the game. I'll let you know. But
let me know.
I think it's still working. At least it works for me.
Right.
But yeah, I suppose that's also part of the shame of aging is your body doesn't work the same and you need things to help you lubricate. And maybe that's shameful for women. It shouldn't be, but you know, men are having the same problem too. They just don't talk about it as much, you know?
Yeah. I mean, definitely women that haven't been sexually active in a while come to the office because they just can't. And then now they've met someone and it's a problem.
Yeah.
So they need help.
Yeah.
If they want to go forward in that relationship.
And I think that's important. And you should do that. You would go to a doctor to help you with anything that you were having an issue with. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with sex. Clearly, I have a shit ton of hangups about it. And they're all understandable and I get it all. And, you know, my head knows what's happened to me, but my body is still holding on to it. And I know there are things that I need to do to feel safe. But I'm okay not having it also. And I think that there's a huge fallacy that if you don't have sex, if you don't use your vagina, that it's unhealthy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Tell us about that, doctor. Is it?
Well, if you don't use it, you lose it.
How?
Oh, and that obviously is a very superficial expression, but as women get older, the estrogen levels drop. Menopause, particularly, makes a radical, huge change. I mean, we haven't talked about the trauma of menopause.
Yeah, I was lucky. I skipped that.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And the blood supply to the uterus is not the same. To the vagina is not the same as it has been before. The hormone levels are just not there. And so everything sort of gets tighter, doesn't stretch as well, and is painful. And I've seen patients that come in, they haven't had sex for 10 years. And they, as Karen says, they met somebody new or something's happened and they want things to work. We have technology to help that. We have hormones to help that now. And that was one of the things that happened to my practice almost 10 years ago now, when some new technology arrived. It was actually a laser that was treated for facial resurfacing.
Oh.
That was adapted in Italy to be used in the vagina. And it reversed a lot of those problems that were existing, and it made the vagina functional again in terms of the patient being able to have intercourse with penetration.
That's awesome.
So, and then we have the technology there, and well, how do we start this conversation with the patient? Because I as a gynecologist, we were never honestly trained to talk to people about their sexual activity and their function and and their habits.
Yeah.
And it would be weird for those questions to come up at that time, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So we decided in our practice, we just changed entry paperwork for patients. Like, and do you have any problems? Do you have any pain with intercourse? Do you have urinary incontinence and so on? And that opened the door to a discussion. If they checked that box, I could talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about it freely. And my practice changed.
Yeah.
It's a radical change from where it was 10 years ago. And there's been more and more of this. And so we've been able to help patients a lot, but that doesn't get away from the expectation that the general population has of women continuing to have sex or not continuing to have sex. Just that it's
you met a guy recently that said he's over having sex.
Yeah,
and he's only 50 something.
Oh wow,
right?
Does he want to go out with me? Is he single?
He's like, yeah, I'm over it.
He lives on a boat in the harbor.
I mean, I think maybe more married people. That's fine. I think more married people are probably sick of having sex with their partners. But I do hear from, I mean, the numbers are rare. I hear from a lot of younger women that are over it already, and I think it's because it's used as a weapon against us in so often. It's never been presented as an expression of love. It's always been presented as, well, you got to lose your virginity and be deflowered and all those horrific terms for what happens when you lose your virginity. But it was never explained like, oh, you meet someone and you fall in love and you have this mutual experience. It's like, no, you give yourself to someone and it's a loss of something. And so again, that's a general unbaking of just sex, that it's okay for women to like sex. And I don't personally know that many that do. But there are lots of women that love sex. I have one friend who lives here who's 60 something and very sexual and very much likes sex. And, bully for her. I think that's awesome. And I think it's great that medicine has advanced in the way that is actually paying attention to us and hormone replacement and going through menopause. I was really lucky. Either I didn't experience it or I didn't lean into it. I didn't have hot flashes. Mm-hmm. Right. I didn't have any. I cried a lot, but I think that had to do with doing ayahuasca more than going through menopause.
Wait, what's ayahuasca?
Ayahuasca is two roots that are grown in Peru that, when brewed together, literally bring trauma out of you when you drink the tea, and you hallucinate and you see all the things that happen to you. Yeah, that was fun. It's now they're doing something called what was it that Matthew Perry died of? Special K.
Oh, ketamine.
Ketamine.
Yeah, that's our next guest today.
I'm really interested in that. So
yeah,
is it a
doctor? You'll meet him on the way.
I'm very interested because that is a very good way to get through trauma. Like, it is brilliant that it can be practiced now. I'm so interested in that. And it's like a fast way through therapy, basically. Rather than spend 20 years psychoanalyzing yourself, you do some ketamine with a therapist and it shuts your ego off and all of the shit comes out that you don't get to tap into because you're too present in your ego. Anyway,
I just had a ketamine experience.
You did?
Yeah, because Rami is coming on the podcast at 11 today. I did it on Friday.
At home?
No. At Lucid Therapeutics.
And shit, I
well,
want to do it. Okay.
Let's go to
I'm
coffee
gonna get his
and I'll tell you all about
it. Yes, please.
You'll meet him before you leave. Hang around for 5 minutes.
I'm very excited about that. So I was just really lucky, and I did not experience menopause. And when I talked about it, a lot of women were really upset that I said, like, don't lean into it. But I think that the problem with menopause is you're already like, so the invisibility switch went off. So you already feel like no one's listening to you, no one's looking at you. And now you have this thing happening to you. And so it's the one thing that you can just scream from the rooftops about. And for me, I don't like to lean into the bad stuff. Like, yeah, you're going through it. Get help for sure. It's out there. But why do we have to lean into that? I don't know, but women got really mad at me.
Yeah. Okay. So, lean in. Okay.
I'm miserable because I have menopause. Okay. Yeah, you do have menopause. Go fix it. Go.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So all the kind of A-list celebrities right now are going through menopause.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a huge, I think suddenly they're all talking about it. Like it's a new thing.
Yeah, but they're doing it in such a negative, debilitating way.
I know.
I know that you're having hot flashes and all of those things, but let's talk about, like, you're not helping the younger generation. You're terrifying them even more. And
That's true.
And I know that there are ways to get through menopause now. And I just don't think you should lean into the suck of that. It's like, when your husband dies, do you walk around every single day of your life talking about how miserable you and alone you are? I hope not. I hope you're looking for the sunshine under the cloud. And I wish that menopause could be the same thing. I realize that it starts with the word men, but maybe you could put a pause on men and find a happier way to get through it.
Well, I think that's really
easy for me to say.
A focus of our practice to do that, but it's and to make it easier. For patients. And I mean, just being able to talk about it. And that's frankly, that's the reason for this podcast.
Women on my page talk about HRT and what a brilliant, wonderful, magical thing it is. And I have a doctor who is my best friend who I have a set of blood work I'm supposed to get done to figure out what I need to sleep better and maybe have better hair. And I'm going to get to it eventually, but I just haven't, because the last time I was told I need testosterone. And if there's one thing I don't want to put in my body, it's testosterone.
You need testosterone.
Yeah, that I was low on testosterone.
Well, no, but you need some.
Yes, of course.
Don't
and I'm low, which is shocking because I do actually have a penis. Many people believe.
Going back to women that actually don't want to have sex and trauma, because I think any woman that's had trauma, that's where you end up.
Yeah. But I just wish the stigma of like, so if you don't use it, you'll lose it. But if you don't want to have it, who cares if you lose it? Losing it meaning it might not work as well when you do want to have it, but you're not losing any health benefit. There's nothing wrong with you.
No, you can still have an orgasm. It's not like you can't have pleasure.
I wish that was, like when I was growing up, if you were ever bitchy or mean, the first thing men would say was, you need to get laid.
Oh, yeah.
So I just wish women understood that, nothing unhealthy is happening to you if you don't want to. It's okay.
Yeah.
Don't use it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you asked me, did I believe that men and women were equal? And the answer is absolutely yes. They're equal but different. And yes, they are every bit as important as each other, but the patriarchal situation, as we've chatted about, has caused a lot of problems for women. But I don't see a lot of women. I mean, there are so many people that don't think there is equality here, and there isn't in our society equality. Mm-hmm. There should be, but there isn't. And I see that there are arguments about wages and women get 90% of the wage of a man's, the equivalent of a male's wage. I think all of that should be equal, it depends on merit as much as anything else, and what people get paid. So it's fine for a woman to be paid more than a man, even if they're doing the same job, if she's better at it.
Yeah. Or has more experience doing it.
Yeah, exactly. So these are, there's so much stigma involved with talking about this, or no, stigma is not the right word. It's more just, it starts off discussions and arguments and so on about what is feminism and what is, but I think equality is a much better word to use.
Yeah.
To look at how people are assessed.
I mean, how do you stand up? How do you find equality in a country that is based on a document that we are not in? We're in it now, the Constitution, thanks to some amendments, but we didn't have the right to vote.
Yeah.
And now look what's happening with Roe versus Wade being overturned and abortions being made illegal. I mean, we are second-class citizens in this country. I think it's more about class than anything else. And we are the lesser class, women. And how do you overturn that? How do you stop that when every day, something else happens in this country that proves to me that we are hated? Women are actually hated in this country.
Especially if they have an opinion.
Oh, yeah. Don't have that.
If you speak up, you're instantly just,
it's
brutalized.
It's difficult to figure out what to do or where to start or what to say.
Still walking on eggshells around it. And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when the country started with us not in mind, not mattering. We are just baby machines that cook dinner on the prairie. Barefoot, preferably.
It's up to each of us as an individual to recognize that this is a problem, and that's hard to begin with.
Yeah,
and then doing something about it.
Why would you give up your privilege to help us?
Yeah, really.
That's the real question.
It's just, you mentioned the point at the beginning, listening.
Yeah.
When my daughter was married a couple of years ago, I gave a little speech as father of the bride, and I just have 5 kids, but I have just one daughter. And I just said to them, among other things, the most important thing you can do in this relationship is to listen to each other. And I hear that so much of the time. So that's where that needs to be the wave that builds momentum. You got to listen to people. I mean, I was actually yesterday accused by Karen of not listening.
He wasn't.
Well, I just wish that women weren't considered bitches for having an opinion. That's the first place people go. Or
when we get angry, why that's not okay.
It's not. I'm not being a bitch.
Okay.
It's called being honest. I'm being honest right now, no matter what tone I use. I said something yesterday, and I got a note from a text from a guy that said something about how old I was and how many cats do I have.
Oh my God.
And I responded, how many cats do I have? And I responded, how small is your penis? What I should have said is, Wait,
this is on your Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Explain quickly.
I
want to know what else happened there, but to our listeners about your Instagram. I just
about what
are you doing right now on your platforms?
I mean, I'm getting dressed every day, and I'm talking about all aspects of life, my life, whether it's aging, whether it's sobriety, whether it's sex, whether it's, anything that comes up. I might tell an old story from my life or anything to say, basically, live your life for yourself, make mistakes. There's no such thing as wasted time. Just be gentle with yourself, live your life, and don't worry about it, and don't take everything so seriously.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
you do all this
Seriously.
while you're getting dressed.
Yes.
And how did you come up with that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I honestly don't. It just, I mean, like I said in the beginning with my friend Krista Allen, who convinced me to just put my outfits up. And then she said it would be great if you would tell a story. So it was just, I was putting outfits on and I was just standing there in my outfit. And I was like, well, that's boring. Maybe I should actually put the outfit together and show people how I do that. And I actually started off much more in underwear and bras than I am now because I'm just not comfortable doing that anymore. And then, you know, I need time to tell a story. So maybe I'll add more clothing than I normally would or layer things. But that's really how it started. Just happened organically. And then when I realized that certain posts went viral, certain subject matters,
Yeah.
I started talking about those things more or telling different stories about more of those things like sobriety or
Right.
quitting weed or ex-boyfriends or my 30s, my 40s, my 50s and things that stood out or things that like wouldn't have happened if I thought I was old in my 50s or how I feel about shapewear or, you know, how I feel about the words anti-aging. I just talk about anything, everything really. I don't, I'm not precious about it. I'm not always perfect. Sometimes I say the wrong things and piss people off, but I'm just really at the end of the day talking to myself,
Yeah.
reassuring myself that all these things are okay.
But it is reassuring. You did one the other day or like a week ago on family.
and
And, you know,
it's okay to walk away from toxic family
yes,
members.
and I sent it to my sister because we have a toxic family member. And, you know, I watched it, you know, probably 3 times in a row. Like so it really.
I definitely have a different belief system than a lot of people on family and how your soul chose your family for a reason. And that helped me get through my mom's death a lot because I picked her, my soul picked her. She was difficult. She was unnurturing. She was hard on me. And in the end, none of it mattered when I saw her on her deathbed because I realized my soul chose this story for a reason. I needed to learn a lesson from it. Maybe that lesson was I needed to nurture myself, and I have. And, you know, in the end, I like to remind people something I heard on TikTok once, which is, you know, it was my mom's first time here too.
Yep. They're just doing what they only, what
She was
they
19.
know. Yeah.
What the hell did she know? You know? And I think we forget that. I think we think our parents are these superheroes that know everything. They don't know shit. Nobody knows anything. No one knows what they're doing.
I know.
We are all fumbling in the dark, and we all
Absolutely.
need to have much more grace with each other about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like your question to me this morning, are you okay? And I'm like, I don't know. Remember?
Yeah, that's a rough one to answer. I don't know.
Is
anyone
are any of
okay?
us okay?
Yeah.
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 But
What do you like to do? What are your things day
I
by day?
love writing.
Mhm.
I unfortunately love shopping.
where do you like to shop? Will you shop anywhere? Are you one of
Trying to
those
shop
people?
secondhand more. I shop locally at a store called Crossroads.
Oh yeah, they have good
Trading.
stuff. Because people that have worn things one time in a photo shoot take their
it's
stuff
fantastic.
there. Yeah.
Everything I'm wearing today is thrifted. There's a local woman on Instagram called The Make Good, and she rescues lots of secondhand clothing and then has live sales on her Instagram. I love her stuff. I do still buy new clothing. I am absolutely targeted by Instagram. They know exactly what to show me, and I buy it often. I love spending time with my dogs. I love cooking. I love dinner parties and hanging out. I love going to the movies. I love everything. I love life. I'm very curious about life. I think that is one of the most important things you can be in order to stay young. If I see something on Instagram or a local new restaurant that opened or a place to go, I'm there immediately.
Yeah. That's great.
I love being curious about life. I would like to travel more than I do, but Europe is very far away from California. And I went to Lisbon last summer. It was amazing. But yeah, I like it all. I really do.
And you like being in Santa Barbara now?
I
From LA?
love Santa Barbara and Montecito. I moved here thinking that I was going to just spend a few months sort of getting out of debt at my, staying at my friend's guest house. And then I was going to move to the East Coast. I was going to move back east to Massachusetts, where I have a bunch of friends. And I had been there. I went to college in Boston, and I really fell in love with New England again. And I thought, I never really gave it a fair shot after college. I'm going to go back. And then I came here, and within, I don't know, a month, I said, oh, I'm not leaving. It's like living in a Hallmark movie here.
Yeah.
Literally. I walk around the funk zone, and I'm like, are there cameras on? Because it's just too perfect here.
No.
I don't know that my people are here.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't found all of them yet.
But you met Kim. She's a good one.
She's the best.
She's awesome.
She's the best.
We love her.
I hope there are more people of color coming this way, because we could use that for sure. But I really do love it here. I think it's an amazing, beautiful bubble of a place.
It is a bubble.
Yeah.
It's an island.
It is. If you have a bike, you're in.
Yep.
I got to get a bike. I'm not going to use it, but I'm just going to have one so I fit in better.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love Santa Barbara, but I think you do need to get out of Santa Barbara. It's just like.
Yeah. I mean, I go back to LA, but I'm still new and enjoying it. I'm looking forward to the summer.
That's good.
Yeah. I've never spent a summer I haven't spent a full summer by the beach since I was younger, and we had summer shares in the Hamptons, which was the greatest time of my life.
Oh, that's great.
How old were you?
Late 20s, early 30s. We would get, 10 people in a house share in Amagansett and the dunes, and it was just magic. It was just the best time. The best time.
Going back to the solutions here, listening.
Yeah.
And maybe the white male paying more attention. There's a scripture that I like, although it often makes me feel guilty, and it is, to whom much is given, much is expected. And I feel like I'm so far behind on giving that when I've been blessed with so much, just where parents, where I came from, where I've lived, my profession. I've been incredibly lucky, and there's a lot to give back.
I mean, I just think that, like I said, to be an ally to women, if you're someone who has a following on social media or someone who has a podcast, to talk about the issues, to use your privilege to give us some privilege of being female, to talk about it, to not be silent when terrible things happen to women, to not be silent when Roe v. Wade is overturned. You don't see men on social media talking about it, or in the news, or anybody of power talking about it. It's just like, oh, well, that happened. Defend women, stand up for women. And that's all you can ask, really.
I think you've been my therapy session today.
Good.
Thank you very much. It's been great to have you.
It was great having you. I see a podcast in your future.
I am going to start a podcast with my friend Constance Zimmer. She's an actress, and I think we're going to call it 50-60. She's 53, I'm 63, and I think it's going to be about the massive differences between those two decades and how one is so awful and the other is so magical. We'll see.
Fantastic.
We're working on it.
Great.
Well, let me know if I can help.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay.
Thanks. Well, thanks for listening. We're getting really good feedback. We'd really appreciate a review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. Thank you. You can always DM the Vagina Doctor Instagram with any questions or topics you'd like to learn more about, or email us. The Vagina Doctor Podcast. It all starts here.